So recently, and somewhat unexpectedly, I got to go hands-on with a little bit of Halo 5, or I should specify, the Halo 5 multiplayer beta, which is not something I thought we'd be doing as recently as November 2014, but here we are, I've played it. And I have about a million things to say about this game. Right off the bat, I should say, and I haven't been shy about saying this before, I didn't love Halo 4. I didn't think it was a very good multiplayer Halo game. My idea of what makes Halo is balance and arcadiness and very level playing field, and Halo 4 did away with just about all of those things in exchange for loadouts and supply drops and basically turning it into Call of Duty, which, I mean, Call of Duty's fine, but that's not what I want from Halo. Halo 5, I'm very excited to report, seems to be going in the exact opposite direction in every way. The first thing that 343 said to us when we came to this gameplay session was we really wanted to get back to a level playing field for Halo, which sounds like a direct response to the reaction and some of the criticism of Halo 4, which is that it was not a level playing field. It was very much a game about what items you come into a match with and what kill streaks you get, etc. Everything we saw of Halo 5, I can't stress this enough, was pure Halo in the sense of everyone spawned with the same weapons, you pick up your weapons on the map, there are power weapons in certain spots and you can go get them if you so choose, but it was like even as hell playing field all the way through, which to me is iconic Halo. They've actually, if you think about it, kind of regressed back from games like Halo Reach and to a lesser extent Halo 3, where you were bringing in equipment or armor abilities. This has none of that, and what all that's been replaced by is a new sort of jump jet pack feature, and you can probably tell where this is going just by playing other multiplayer shooters that are around these days. Players can now press the B button at any time to sort of boost in a direction, and then there's a short cooldown before they can do it again. And so you can use this in midair or on the ground to, say, boost away from an enemy, boost away from a grenade, boost into combat, boost out of combat. It's exactly what you think it is. So if you've played Advanced Warfare or to a lesser degree Titanfall, you kind of have an idea of what this feels like, and I'm sure the footage you're seeing now kind of illustrates that yes, this is the mechanic you think it is. However, I think this mechanic plays a little bit differently than it does in Call of Duty. Having played both games, Advanced Warfare is still a game where you die faster than in Halo, and I found it, as a longtime Halo lover and player, really useful actually to be able to, there would be situations where I'd come up against an enemy, we'd both be shooting each other, he would have found me first or hit me first, my shield would have popped, and then I was able to use B to dash into cover or into safety and escape. I feel like I was having more escapes than I was normally in Halo, which was kind of a cool thing. Now, another big change, and maybe the craziest one if you ask me, is the fact that the left trigger now controls your scope. So yes, this game does have pretty close to what you'd call traditional iron sights. And it's not just traditionally scoped weapons like the battle rifle. Every single weapon, by squeezing the left trigger, has some degree of zoom to it. And personally, that still feels insane to me. Maybe it's something I'll get used to with time, but as a longtime Halo player, pressing the left trigger to, say, look down the scope of a pistol or a plasma pistol or something like that just feels bananas to me, especially as someone who's been playing a ton of the Master Chief Collection recently, because I was trying to throw grenades by pressing left trigger, and instead I was just zooming in on dudes over and over instead of throwing weapons. Literally, it took me like 2 or 3 rounds to get used to the fact that left trigger was not throwing grenades. Now, as is now pretty much par for the course in Halo games, Halo 5 changes up the controls in some pretty dramatic ways. So not only are you using left trigger to use the Smart Scope feature, grenades are now on the left bumper, which isn't going to take forever to get used to. It took me a couple rounds, but you'll get there because it's same finger, whatever, that's fine. But then meleeing is now on the right bumper, and then clicking the left stick is no longer crouch, which is super weird for me, but whatever. Again, maybe time will tell and I'll get used to it. What that does now, though, is sprint. And I should say this, also another huge mechanical change. Every single Spartan has unlimited sprint at all times. And the way that they balance that, which I actually think is pretty clever, is that when you are sprinting, your shields no longer recharge. So you have to stop running and get to cover before your shields will come back. Now, these new abilities combine in some pretty interesting ways. So, for example, if you use a melee while you are sprinting, that will do what's called a charge, which will knock a Spartan's shields all the way down to 0, and also push them. So, for example, I was playing on a midship, a remake of the map Midship at one point, and thrust into a dude so hard that it actually knocked him off the platform area back down to the sort of ground below where the shotgun spawns. And that was like kind of an interesting thing. It caught him off guard and it moved the player in a way that you aren't normally able to do, which was kind of an interesting change of feel, I guess, for Halo. Another interesting combination is what happens when you use the Smart Scope in midair. So the left trigger Smart Scope thing I was talking about that has a scope for every weapon, when you use that while in midair, it actually immediately slows your descent and lets you fall very, very slowly, almost like a graceful glide to the ground, which is useful because it means that you can shoot targets who are distant from you without falling at the speed of gravity, basically. Like, you are now able to slow down and shoot them a little bit more easily than normal. Now, the trade-off for that, obviously, is that you are floating in midair and you are very much a super obvious target for other players. But it's kind of an interesting mechanic that I don't think I've seen done anywhere else. Now, one small change I should point out that sort of counterbalances the smart scope stuff is that de-scoping is back in the game. So, like, hardcore Halo players probably know that in every Halo game up to and not including Halo 4, when you were shot while in a scope, you got knocked out of the scope view and back to the traditional first-person view. Now, in Halo 5, it continues that way. So, whereas in Halo 4, you could stay scoped with a sniper rifle while people are hitting you and just still keep getting headshots from across the map all day, and there was no penalty basically to being shot until you died. That problem is now corrected in Halo 5, and you get knocked out of the scope, making the game a little bit harder for snipers to just sort of post up in camp. And I think the locomotion stuff actually kind of does the same thing. I think people being able to jump around the map and dodge so freely makes moving around easier and more necessary, and makes camping a little bit harder. Not that Halo was ever a game with a horrible camping issue anyway, but locomotion is clearly a huge component of what is setting Halo 5 apart here. Now, during my time with Halo 5, I got to try out 3 different maps, and the first one we played was Truth, which is a remake of Midship from Halo 2, which has been an iconic Halo map. You've seen it either recreated in Forge or ported over to later Halo games. It's just an iconic, small quarters, Covenant-themed multiplayer map, and it was exactly how I remembered it here. Just big and purple and much, much, much prettier, with a couple little changes. There's now easier ways to get up and down from those side platforms. The second map I played was called Empire, which takes place on top of a large skyscraper somewhere in the Halo 5 fiction that we know literally nothing about yet. And that map, I guess the closest thing I could compare it to was Countdown from Halo Reach. It was a very much an indoorsy, multi-layered area with sort of an outside area where you could fall off or jump off or, I guess, thrust into people and knock them off. But it was a weird map for me personally, just because the power weapon on that map was 2 sniper rifles located on opposite ends, and the map is so full of these like huge vertical spires and multiple layers that me, as a brand new and therefore kind of shitty Halo 5 player, I was not really able to ever line up shots with the sniper rifle there. But that's just one map, so whatever. Now, the final map that we played, and the first new game type, was a map called Crossfire and a game type called Breakout. Now, the map Crossfire, which you're seeing right now, was the first Forge map that we played, and I am like completely smitten with the visual appearance of this. It has this like VR blue and orange grid thing, very clear, very readable, much more readable than the other 2 maps we played. Just like gorgeous. And I actually pressed them about this a little bit, if this was what Forge maps would look like from now on, which I was kind of hoping for, and they said that not only will this be one appearance for Forge maps, they will also have other appearances, hopefully, for the Forge map. So it won't all be blue and orange grids. They're going to have a variety of themes, but they wouldn't really go into much detail on that with me. On Crossfire, the mode that I played was called Breakout, which is a round-based mode where each player has 1 life, and it's like Team Slayer essentially, but there are 4 players on each team, and it is totally round-based. One thing I should note, and I don't know if this was a Forge map thing or a thing with the new mode Breakout, but the way that the Spartans entered the map is like in this ridiculous, like, almost not even a man cannon, I don't really know what it is, just running up these ramps together side by side in third person, getting launched into the arena, and it's like the silliest, goofiest thing ever. That just worth mentioning. That cracked me up every single time I saw it happen, so I figured I would share that with you. But the game type is cool because it's 4-on-4 permadeath, so whenever a character dies, they are out until the next round. And what's cool about this is that there are callouts from the narrator every time a character dies. So it starts out as a 4-on-4 game, but let's say someone on the blue team dies, the narrator will say 4 versus 3. Then let's say another blue player dies, the narrator will call it 4 versus 2, and then so on and so forth until all the players are gone. So you have a very, very acute sense, in addition to seeing what's on the HUD, of who's left and who isn't, and it feels very, very competitive and very, very tactical, and was actually my favorite of all of the Halo 5 stuff we got to play. I wanted to go back to that mode, and actually did a couple of times during my session. Oh yeah, and one last thing I should mention is that all the Spartans now speak in combat, not unlike Call of Duty. So you'll hear Spartans talk to each other during the match. They'll say like, "Hey, I'm reloading," or like, "Shields are fully charged and ready to go." Or conversely, if you like fuck up and accidentally shoot or throw grenades at a teammate, I had Spartans when I would, because I was struggling with the grenade controls, like I said, I would hear other Spartans say like, "Stop grenade spamming," or like, "I'm on the same team," like stuff like that, which is a neat idea. It seems somewhat influenced by what like other multiplayer shooters have done, but maybe hopefully that'll save people the energy it takes to yell at each other over the mic and just let these AIs do it for them, because it's a little bit easier to hear from a machine than from a teammate making fun of you for sucking at Halo or accidentally injuring your teammates. But that's just, yeah, one last little detail. I don't know, overall, like, it was a really weird, surreal time playing Halo 5. I think I mostly enjoyed my time with it, and I'm mostly excited. I really like the fact that it is now, again, a level playing field. I think that's a fundamental component of what makes Halo Halo. That said, though, I have to admit that the smart scope stuff just felt unbelievably weird to me, and maybe it's just because I've been playing Master Chief Collection nonstop for the past few weeks, but a Halo game where you zoom in with the left trigger is, in a lot of ways, not a Halo game to me. And I get that they have to modernize it, and I get that they have to make concessions to modern game design, and I guess there has to be iron sights and there has to be a sprint, but that made it feel closer to Destiny or even Call of Duty than I think it did to Halo, and I don't know, maybe I'll get used to it with time. Another thing also I should say is that my COD and Destiny instincts kicked in right away, and I was scoping all the time, and what they told me was that firing from the hip is a much better tactic in this game than it is in other multiplayer shooters, so I don't need to be scoped all the time. So, like, for example, I was trying to use the scope with a battle rifle early on just because instinctively that's what felt like the right thing to do, but then I realized that that would give me the 2x zoom that the battle rifle has, and all of a sudden I would be zoomed in way too far, and I just needed to train myself to sit back, let go of the left trigger, learn to throw grenades with the left bumper, and just fire from the hip more often. I don't know, ultimately it feels like they took a lot of the criticism from Halo 4 super seriously. I think that Halo 4 was a game that learned a lot of the wrong lessons from Call of Duty, if I can be frank. I think Halo 4 was a game that took Call of Duty and applied its formula to Halo, which was in a place that I thought it really fit. Like, I thought Halo's beauty was in its arcadiness and its floatiness and it's the long length of every encounter, and I thought that Halo 4 didn't glorify what I loved about Halo. Halo 5 seems to mostly be glorifying what I love about Halo, which is silly, arcadey, long lifespan based first person combat. It's just that for me personally, the jury's still out on the stuff that makes it feel a little bit more generic and a little bit more like a mainstream shooter. It's the scope stuff and the sliding. You can now slide if you crouch while sprinting, and the infinite sprint. Like, these feel like more Call of Duty stuff ending up in Halo somehow. And I guess it's better this than kill streaks, but I don't know. And you know what? Maybe it's just that I've been playing Halo 2 Classic a lot lately, and switching from that to this is super jarring, like, in a big way. It's been more than a decade, obviously, between that game and this game, and a lot's changed, you know? So who can say? It's just that for me personally, the jury is still out on whether or not the scope additions and the sprint additions and all that stuff are improvements. I really do love the way the dashing feels. I do think it's a little weird that it's on the B button. I think Call of Duty actually kind of nailed it by putting dashes on the left L3 or clicking the left stick. Like, that was a great move, I thought. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I thought about my time with Halo 5. As usual, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below or ask me on Twitter. I would be more than happy to answer your queries about my time with Halo. And hey, if you feel like subscribing, I do videos like this all the time about all sorts of upcoming and current games, so that's what I'm here for. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time. Bye.